Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ridgeline Customer Conversation. I'm Tom Lee, a customer success manager here at Ridgeline, and I'm excited to be your host today. Vulcan Value Partners is based in Birmingham, Alabama, focused on disciplined long term value investing for institutional and high net worth clients. They manage a mix of separately managed accounts and pooled vehicles across multiple strategies and account structures. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Vulcan Value Partners for the last year, and today I'm joined by Ann Jones, the Chief Operating Officer, and Kelly Jerrell, the Director of Data Management. Ann and Kelly, thank you both for being here. I'd like to rewind a little bit and talk about the original evaluation. And from a leadership and enterprise perspective, what were some of the main pain points that you were focused on when looking to make a change in technology?
Yeah, sure. Two of the main issues that we were struggling with was one, not having sort of a single enterprise-wide system that allowed people visibility into kind of the different functional areas. For example, we had a separate OMS, a separate reporting tool. So it just sort of disallowed the ability for people to self-service, if you will. Again, with those legacy systems, we had per seat licensing, which was cost prohibitive for us. So that was a big issue that we were struggling with. Also, just having a single, golden source point of information, trusting that everyone was looking at the same data in a single system, particularly from a risk and compliance standpoint, that was really important to us. So that was another one of the big draws of Ridgeline to us.
Kelly, I know you're a little bit more in the weeds on the operational and technical structures.
Yeah, well, firstly, appreciate you having us today. I think part of the issues that we were trying to solve for kind of the complexity of file movements. We have our own data warehouse that we built internally, so we were having a lot of dependencies on a lot of different vendors supplying us data, and then that data had to be received in a certain order of time, basically, so that we didn't have any failures along the way. So I think that's kind of one of the major things we were trying to solve for was just kind of that that level of data just kind of coming from different sources and being able to kind of time it and get it all at the same time so that you didn't have any issues if something was missed down the road.
Nice. Yeah. And that all makes sense. And that's what we hear from a lot of our clients is kind of one system that's speaking to itself and kind of giving you that data in real time. So that makes sense. So now you've kind of decided you want to make a change. You're looking into the market for new solutions. You come across Ridgeline. What stood out in the evaluation process when looking at Ridgeline, Ann?
I think, for me, one of the things that seemed very unique with the Ridgeline team was that during the evaluation process, they actually came on site to Vulcan to really get to know us. It almost felt like they were evaluating us as much as we were evaluating them. And I mean that in a very good way. I think Ridgeline was very intentional about understanding, our current needs, our pain points, our workflows, any type of, maybe custom processes that we might do that might be different from our peers that they needed to be aware of, any type of non-negotiables. So really like knowing that they were trying to grasp our needs and make sure that their system was going to fit that from the beginning, I thought was really unique and I appreciated it very much. Just it made me feel more confident in the team that they wanted us to be successful with their tool and it wasn't just a sales pitch. Um, they were really invested in their system working for us. So that was something from the very beginning that I was really impressed with.
And Kelly, so we come on site, right? You have some robust operational processes already in place. How did you get comfortable that we could not only match those but enhance those?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we kind of already had a robust tech stack. We had a lot of different vendors supplying us information. And I think what we didn't really want to do was just layer more tools on top of that, just to make something that's complex already more complex. So um, we really liked the fact that kind of Ridgeline had the transparency of the system for everyone to kind of be able to go in and fix problems as they arose. If we did have any kind of data issues, we had way more control of the system as opposed to having to kind of wait on a vendor to fix something for us and send us new information, which would just kind of put us even further behind the eight ball when we have kind of daily processes that need to be firing in the morning, trading standpoint and so forth. So just that consolidation of all the systems into one and kind of the direct visibility that we have into the system is really a plus.
Gotcha. And to go maybe just to go one level deeper, what were some examples of the must solve operational issues that you were looking for to partner on?
Yeah, I think basically one of the larger ones just kind of points of failure. We wanted to kind of eliminate all the points of failure that were in the process. When you have a system where a lot of batching is going on overnight, you're kind of really dependent on your third party vendors doing what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. And so we were really dependent on them for that. So we kind of wanted to reduce that system churn per se and kind of have the more real time reporting and just basically allow our data warehouse integrations and flows the capability to flow with less points of failure.
Great. Yeah, that makes sense. And kind of from your side, from a leadership or enterprise perspective, kind of what were the main gaps or what you're mainly looking to accomplish with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, high level, really just looking at risk reduction. And I think kind of two ways we approach that was sort of with the single source of data model, knowing that everyone would be looking at the same information. In our previous environment, we might have had three separate tools where you could get the same amount of information. And in theory, they should have all matched. But as Kelly talked about with all the various processes of data transferring around, they occasionally might get out of sync. And so just knowing that everyone was looking at one single golden copy of data really was a risk reduction point. And then also kind of from a people standpoint, with the enterprise-wide licensing, being able to allow everyone the visibility into the system did allow for more self-service. So for example, if someone's out and maybe they were the only one that had access to this specific tool in our old environment, I needed a report from them, they were out, that would hold up me getting, the information that I needed for a period of time. So now just allowing more people to self-service, I think is also another way of reducing risk across the firm. That has been very helpful for us.
Amazing. Yeah, a lot of time saving, a lot of risk reduction. That's very evident there. Maybe taking like a separate viewpoint there. What about from a growth perspective? What did Ridgeline offer in terms of looking into the future for Vulcan and how we can partner?
You just use the keyword partner. I mean, I think from the very beginning, Ridgeline really felt like a partner to us, and they came at it, from the on-site evaluation that I spoke about a few minutes ago. They really looked at it as a partnership, and it felt like that from the beginning. So it gave me comfort knowing that Ridgeline was going to be able to grow with us in the future, even if we don't necessarily know what those needs might be. I think Ridgeline's always demonstrated sort of a spirit of innovation and obviously a lot of speed in terms of technical changes that they're able to do. So I really felt comfortable knowing that Ridgeline was going to be able to grow with us. And again, even if we weren't sure and still aren't sure what those needs may be, it feels like a partnership where when we have a need arise, we can voice that to Ridgeline. And they'll also be very transparent about whether or not they can or cannot meet that need, and if they can, what the timing would look like. So I think kind of the transparency and the spirit of partnership has really given me comfort knowing that they will be able to continue growing with us in future years.
Great. Yeah, that's the fun part is figuring out how to grow into the future together. And Kelly, on a similar track, you said you'd already, you guys already had a pretty complicated tech stack in place. How did Ridgeline fit in with that technical foundation that you'd already built?
Yeah, I think it fit really well. We had kind of just ended a 2.5 year process of building out an internal data warehouse that we had taken away from a third party vendor. So we had a really robust data warehouse set up. On top of that, we had a lot of reporting that was built through, Power BI and things like that, that we leverage internally a lot for data and reporting. So it was important to us to kind of have something that complemented that process. We weren't really trying to rip that out and replace it. I mean, we had just, put it in place. So we needed to ensure that we're going to have a system that gives us that scalability, some transparency into the system, and continue to allow us to leverage this Azure based warehouse that we have already spent so much time, money to invest in. So it really complemented that well. We were able to take a lot of the lessons we learned through implementation and continue to leverage that same system with just a new source, which ended up being Ridgeline's data.
Nice. You mentioned implementation, so let's jump to that now. So you've done the evaluation, Ridgeline and Vulcan are good fits to grow together. Now comes the fun part, implementation, which is, always a challenge. Kelly, you were the project manager on the Vulcan side for the implementation, and I think you described it to me kind of like a heart transplant. So walk me through what that experience was actually like from your side.
Yeah, I think that's the best metaphor for it. I mean, you're taking the heartbeat out of your systems and your company and basically switching out one for another. So we were leveraging three different systems. We had an OMS that basically was handling the trading, and then we had a third party vendor that we had outsourced all our back office work to. And they were using Eagle. And then we had kind of the data warehouse, which I'd said before that we had kind of taken that over and brought it in the house. But I think that is the heartbeat of your firm, right? That's from an investment management firm. You got to be trading. You got to be doing your accounting every day. If those things aren't happening, then business is not being done every day. So there was a lot has to happen every morning to make sure that those two things are standing up and working for the business to run. So there can't be a day that those aren't working. It's a lot of data. It's a lot of checking and making sure everything is what it should be. A lot of reconciliation, and it's a big process, but I think that is all negated when you have a good partner and there's a lot of communication and nobody's being left in the dark. There's no kind of questions about where we are in the process and so forth. And so I think the plan was clear and we stuck to it. There may have been some variations here and there as that's going to happen because, like I said, this is the heartbeat of the firms. The team was very responsive both directions, and we had a good plan and we stuck to it.
Awesome. And you were still pretty involved in the implementation as well on your side, but you also sat more as like an executive sponsor from a leadership perspective. What gave you confidence during the implementation process as you were kind of receiving updates on how things are going? Are we on track?
I think I guess one of the things would be the quality of the people that were involved in the implementation. We were fortunate enough to have worked with a few of the people that were part of our implementation and with previous vendors, so they were familiar with Vulcan. So I think that was helpful. And then I think the preparation and the communication of the implementation team was extremely impressive. I think the scoping of the project before we even started implementation, a ton of effort was put into that by the Ridge team and Kelly on our side as well. So making sure everyone knew well in advance of who was going to be responsible for what was really important. I think another element of the implementation that really impressed me and felt somewhat unique was that with other systems, you typically might have kind of one generic implementation team. And with the Ridgeline implementation, while we did kind of have key people that were kind of project leads, I'd say, on the Ridgeline side, we also had dedicated sort of specialist teams for each functional area. For example, like a reconciliation team that was doing that, a compliance team that did that. So it wasn't overwhelming for people and it didn't seem like one giant broad implementation project. It was very specific to your functional area, which I think was helpful for people's time management and not overloading people with meetings about the implementation. They were just very intentional about how the implementation flowed, the communication that was provided back to us on where we stood. So I thought it was a really impressive implementation and was really proud of the Vulcan team and of the Ridgeline team.
Yeah, I would echo that. We were very impressed with the quality of individuals at Vulcan as well that helped on the implementation. Kelly, anything to add there on just quality of people or the way the work streams are spaced out implementation wise?
I think one of the things that stood out to me, like we said, this is a heart transplant. This is not a small project. It is a very large project. Let's not beat around the bush there. But yeah, I think that the communication, transparency, and expertise of the team that we were using throughout the process just built a lot of trust between Vulcan and that we were in good hands with Ridgeline. I think one, if I had to like specifically pick out something that I really liked was the use of AI throughout the process where, you're not going to catch every note, every word, everything that's said on multiple calls during a week that you're bouncing around between different areas of the operation. So The AI usage, I think, was really great. We always got day of or day after kind of a synopsis of what we talked about, what was next on the roadmap, who was responsible for what, who kind of said they were going to do this, So there was that accountability that just kind of followed you throughout the process. Actually, kind of made us open our eyes to maybe using that internally. So something we're looking at down the road.
So one challenge with performing a large scale implementation, as we've just talked about, is how do you avoid recreating legacy processes? So just because it was done this way previously, the natural instinct is to say, well, how can this system accomplish the same thing? And how do you take a step back and say, well, how can we get the same result with maybe not going through the same step by step process versus where sometimes you might need to? So
From our perspective, there was not as many handoffs in the new system. There's not a lot of waiting on overnight batches to happen. We've got the ability to kind of go into the system and control how files are created, how files are produced, when they're produced. If they're incorrectly, we've got the ability to kind of go fix that. The power has really been kind of taken from all the vendors we were dependent on before and put into our hands with this system. So that's a great selling point for my team because it gets frustrating in the mornings when sometimes you come in and you didn't get this file and then the next step is broken because that file didn't show up. And so then we spend our mornings kind of chasing our tail a little bit. So we've gotten away from that with the original lesson now.
awesome. And from your perspective, right? How did you get comfortable with this collaboration with saying, "Hey, we're going to accomplish what you need to, but maybe through a different route or a different path."
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we really try to do, and I would encourage any, you know, future customer that's going through an implementation, to stress internally, just because we've always done something a certain way doesn't mean it's the right way or the best way. And I think it's a natural inclination of people to sometimes resist change. And so we really worked hard from the very beginning to let people know, hey, this is going to look different. It might feel uncomfortable at times, but like we've got a great team behind us supporting us. We've got training. The Ridgeline Zendesk articles are extremely impressive and helpful, and that's one of the things that we encourage our teammates to review and watch the videos of to get more of a feel of how the system's going to look different than what we're used to. It required a lot of internal encouragement, I'd say, to make sure people were buying into the fact that we might do something differently, but at the end of the day, we were going to accomplish the same goal. The hopes is that things turn out better and you're doing things in a more efficient way than you were previously. And I think we've seen a lot of examples of that throughout our implementation and as we've been using Ridgeline for the past several months. So I think it's important to make sure that the people on your team are willing to look at change as an opportunity for improvement and not just a negative that people might want to push back against.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we talked a lot about like how much work went into upfront scoping things out
Yeah.
and getting everybody bought in and getting a great project plan in place that we're able to hit. But I know with any implementation, things come up, right? Things come up last minute and it's like, "Oh, we need to do this too." I know for you, Ann, there was a really late trading related request that came close to go live that was mission critical.
Mhm.
You maybe want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so we had a trade modeling request where we needed to have positions equal weighted in across a group of accounts in the modeling grid. So that was not something Ridgeline could do at the time. It was something that we discovered throughout the implementation. And Ridgeline, as I've touched on before, was extremely transparent about whether or not they could deliver it. They could. It was going to be very close to our go live. I think our go live ended up being February 9th, which was the original deadline that we had set from the beginning of the project. So it was an on time implementation. And I think the fix was going to be ready January 31st. So we didn't have a lot of wiggle room, which is obviously a bit of a risk and can feel somewhat uncomfortable. With the Ridgeline team was great at communicating and assuring us that they felt very confident they could deliver this prior to our go live. And in fact, they did. And everything went really smoothly. So I think it was the communication and the transparency that, again, they've showed in kind of all of our interactions with them that gave us comfort that we could stick with our original go live date and trust that they were going to get this completed for us like they said they would.
Yeah, no matter how much you plan, there's always something that's going to come up under pressure deliverable, kind of no matter what. Kelly, tell me a little bit, how have you felt dealing with Ridgeline when new customer needs come up from a maybe from a product perspective?
Yeah, I would think, first of all, I'm not afraid to ask. So we're always willing to be guinea pigs or whatever we need to get a change made or run it up the chain per se. I think that says a lot about Ridge List, the partnership, in that you guys are willing to listen and kind of give us what we need or what we want to continue to have our business. I guess I look at it like this: a rising tide raises all ships, right? So anything that we're going to kind of try to bring to the table is going to benefit all of your customers as well. So I think from the implementation standpoint, like what Ann had said, we requested something, you guys didn't do it before that. You got it done and delivered on time. So I think that shows a lot of fortitude on y'all's side. You guys are out to be a good partner and make sure that your customers have the tools they need every day to get their jobs done. So
Great, thank you. One more area of implementation I wanted to make sure we're covering, as we do have our 2026 base camp coming up here this September. So you all attended last year's base camp right in the middle of implementation. So that's a good opportunity to come and see what we're working on, talk to some existing clients. And how did you approach going to that base camp? What value were you trying to get out of it?
Like you said, we were just starting our implementation. So one of the goals that Kelly and I really had was to seek out other customers who had just gone through an implementation to really ask them what were any pain points? What should we look out for? What should be aware of? What do you wish you had known then, that you know now? So really learning from people's experiences was one of our big goals. The Ridgeline team did a great job of giving us a list of customers that were live that maybe look similar to us, or customers that were currently in an implementation that would be relatable for us to talk to. It was also great to hear from other customers what were some of the non-negotiables, something that they might have put in, during their implementation that they had to have ready for go live, just to sort of understand, like I just talked about in my example, our equal weighting modeling process that we needed. What were some other functionalities that maybe Ridgeline was able to build under pressure for these other clients during their implementation? And were they successful? Did they deliver on time? Just hearing stories, and all the people we talked to sort of said the same thing and had the same experience that we did, but that just gave me more confidence in the implementation as we were getting started.
Right. Hearing directly from others who have been through the experience or going through it is kind of sometimes the most valuable thing you can have. A lot of reasons we're doing this call today is to kind of share this out to others who might be on a similar path. So implementation's completed on time. Everyone's happy. Now there's some time to get used to the system, start realizing some of the value props that you signed up for. So now that you've been live since February, and what would you say is the biggest improvement that's shown up to you?
We've seen a huge improvement just in the ability for people to self-service, both in terms of people's productivity and that they're able to maybe get information themselves quicker, but then also not necessarily have to rely on a colleague to handle something for them. So again, it's just made everyone more efficient, been able to spend their time with more value add things, I'd say. Also, just the confidence in knowing that we have a single source of data and knowing that everyone is pulling from the same place, particularly from a compliance source standpoint. That's been a huge improvement. I think those were two of our big pain points we were solving for, and I think we've absolutely seen improvements in all of that.
Awesome. And Kelly, is it more dependable than it was before? What value have you seen in the last 4 months?
yeah, it's definitely more dependable. I think that the value that we've seen the most is like what I've spoke to before, kind of fewer handoffs, the real-time access that we have to the system, the abilities to, from a data warehouse perspective, rerun files on demand from our side. And so I think that's really, it's just been supported by the way we have visibility into the system. We have confidence in the numbers and the data that we're seeing. So, and if we don't, then we have the ability at our fingertips to just drill down into the information and figure out if something has gone awry, where the ability to be able to fix it quickly, get it back on track. Just having that ability to be in-house as opposed to sending emails to vendors and this and that, trying to wait on other folks. It's been a real value add here.
In terms of the individuals at Vulcan, who would you say has gotten the strongest day-to-day utilization in terms of job types?
I'd say probably number one is our trading team. I won't go into the old system we were using, but it was antiquated and they did not care for it as much. It didn't have as much new age technology baked into the system. So I think our traders are really loving the new trading platform and just the visibility that they have into everything that's going on, the security master and everything is just all together. Before that was very discombobulated. So they didn't have that visibility to be able to dig into things. Those requests would always come to us via an email. But so this is kind of turn that around for them. And then our ops team, they're able to run reports, dig into data. I think everybody has really leveraged the system fully from top to bottom. And like Ann said earlier, it's a change. So there are people in every firm that do not care for the change as much, but even those people we've been able to bring along, I think they're enjoying the system a lot more than what we had previously.
Nice. And from a compliance standpoint, have you guys been seeing value there? Who's been getting the value?
Yeah, I mean, specifically the compliance kind of functionality in the tool is extremely user friendly. And we've recently started using the compliance AI tool, which has been really impressive. And it just saves our time and day to day in terms of reviewing post trade compliance violations. It's also been helpful for other teams to have visibility into compliance rules. For example, our performance team, when they're looking at dispersion, they may be trying to understand why an account has dispersion relative to other accounts within the same strategy. And they're able to see what compliance rules are on that account now. And maybe they can't own a certain name or a certain sector. And that would be an explanation for the dispersion. So, whereas in our old systems, people didn't have the visibility into that due to the licensing limitations, that's also been a really big value add. And just going back to that transparency and self service. So, from a compliance standpoint, we're really loving the tool.
Great. It's great to see you've only been live for 4 months. So, really happy to see that you are getting value out of the system already. I know with these things, even though there's an implementation, there's always plenty of things to keep looking forward to, enhancing and improving to get more people adopting the system. So, um, let's talk about some of the things you're looking to unlock next. Who else do you want to get involved in the system, and what other value are you looking to capture in the near term?
I think where we're looking to go next is to get our PMs more involved with using the tool. There are a few things that we've kind of put to Ridgeline that we think will help RPMs adopt the usage of the system. We're trying to circle up around intraday pricing for the PM so they can look at the models in more real time, things like that. So the Ridgeline's been extremely open to kind of our requests and needs, and our PMs are excited about potentially, using the tool more. I think that's sort of our next phase. I think we approached it as the kind of core people that we're going to need to use the system to operate our day-to-day business. We're going to be kind of phase one priority, which is trading, ops, compliance, and then we would expand that out kind of post go live to the PMs, our client service team more involved as well. So firm-wide, everyone's super excited about the tool. We just sort of phased our adoption a bit in terms of, must have to operate day one versus how can we improve the kind of day-to-day experiences, workflows, efficiencies for our PM team, our client service team. So they're excited about it. We're excited about it. So that's kind of where we're looking to go next.
Nice. That's definitely a very common journey from my perspective. Working with other clients is, you get it into the hands of the people who need it right away and who can kind of immediately see the value, and then who else can you get to engage with the system? There's definitely more areas to unlock, but it's takes a little bit more time to get people bought in. Kelly, let's talk a little bit about unlocking more things through AI workflows. What have you seen with the AI workflows tool, and what are you trying to enhance on your side?
Our firm as a whole has really embraced AI more recently, especially after we got put in place Ridgeline and they all heard that you guys are using AI within the system. So it's the company has really bought into just AI in general. And so where we're using it probably the most is two places really. One is allowing people to use the chat function and the AI to kind of work through the system so they can help themselves self-serve to find reports if they need to know holdings on an account. Our our client service team is able to kind of question it and kind of get drill down into things that they may have had to have in the past send an email over to myself or somebody else on the ops team to say, hey, what was the holdings for so and so count on any one day. I think that type of usage is going to get used a lot. And then I also like the fact that it's being incorporated into the workflow processes that the system have in place. I'm sure, as many other firms, we always had lots of checklists. One thing about the workflow routing is that you're able to use that workflow process to kind of just build a checklist that's in real time, and that also has the ability to have AI steps in it to handle things on the fly throughout the process to navigate just a process from A to Z. So those are kind of the couple things that we're really trying to use it and leverage it right now.
Great. Yeah. And I know there's going to be many more that we'll release shortly that we can work to incorporate together. Maybe last question here. What would you tell to other firms that are hesitant to make a move because implementation feels risky or challenging? And I'll start with you.
Sure. Again, I think it is a heavy lift, and I think just I would say the quality of the Ridgeline team, kind of from all areas, from the sales and then the customer success team to the implementation team, the day-to-day support team, have all been extremely knowledgeable in their subject area. The communication is excellent. I think Ridgeline feels like a very nimble firm that's willing to build functionality and as your needs grow. And they kind of going back to where I started, they really feel like a partnership with you, and they're really invested in your success, and they want their tool to help you do your job. It's not just sort of a sales pitch. So while it feels like a really heavy lift, I certainly would say that it's worth it. And you'll be in great hands along the way. And you have other similar firms that have gone through it that would be willing to help you and share pain points and things like that. We had that, you know, provided to us, and we'd love to pay it forward to future implementation groups going through this. So I would say, while it feels maybe scary and people are hesitant to change, it's certainly been worth it on our side.
Thank you. And Kelly, what would you tell to an operational leader who's worried about all the disruption that'll take place with the implementation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately, like we said, it's a heart transplant. It is a big project, but the ability for your teams to kind of simplify it and organize it in a way and over communicate and just keep things on track. To me specifically through the whole process to still be able to do the things that I'm supposed to do. We still have day jobs that have to get done. That work's not going away. But the way that it's organized and the way that it's communicated, I always felt like the teams that we were working with on the implementation were going above and beyond. So that makes it easy. That makes a tough project a lot simpler. It's not like you're trying to kind of rebuild your firm. It's kind of taking that fragmentation that you have in your operations right now and trying to simplify it. So, yeah, it's kind of tough. It's a journey, but at the end of it, on the other side, it's a much easier process, and we're better for sure.
Thanks so much. And ditto to you all and to everyone at Vulcan. You're great partners, and we had a great time both implementing you and now going live. And we've loved to hear all the product ideas that you've sent in that Kelly, as you mentioned, rises all ships and everybody benefits from. So we're been very happy to partner with you. And Kelly, thanks so much for joining us today and taking a look at this and being willing to go on camera and talk about your experience. I know it's going to be really helpful for a lot of other clients that we have. And we're excited to continue the partnership and to see you out at base camp again this September. So thank you very much.